Hi, I'm Libby Chambers. I've been Chief Marketing Officer of a number of different brands in the UK and the US, and today I'm a board director. And it's great to be here today to talk about brands and purpose. So introductions start on my left.
Hi, I'm Sarah Whipp. I'm CMO at Callsign.
Hi, I'm Emma Rush, CEO at Gyro.
Hi, I'm John Watton. I'm a career marketer, work in a number of leadership positions, likes of Oracle, Microsoft, and latterly Adobe.
Great, so it's fantastic to have people from the world of technology and financial services around the table to talk about purpose and purpose-led brands today. And before we get underway, I thought we would just, somebody jump in and say, how do you define purpose and what does it actually mean in your organization?
Oh, shall I go first? I think for us, purpose is the reason why we set up the company. So we're a relatively young company, 6 years old, and we looked to our purpose of what did we want to do? Well, we wanted to make identity simple and secure for people, and that really has defined all the decisions that we make since then, be it whether we invest in technology or marketing or sales. It has to be with that intent, purpose, and end game in mind.
Great. What do you think is the most important driver of purpose? Does it always have to come from the top? Does it come from customers? Does it come from an individual's inspiration? What have you seen that's been the most powerful?
Yeah, I think the answer is it comes from all those different angles. I guess when I talk about purpose, I'm talking from a perspective working in many commercial organizations. We are commercial businesses having to drive profit and revenue for shareholders and ultimately deliver that back, through the ways in which we do that. And so, there is a commercial reality of why we exist. But I think, to Sarah's point, it's more than that. It's about what our customers expect from a brand in the technology space, which is where I've mainly worked. That is more demanding than understanding a kind of value proposition or an offering. It's about really, something bigger because, typically the buyers of technology or the investors in technology want to see something different now, and purpose in the past was very about almost like a mission statement. Now it's about something around philanthropy or giving back or something extra to that, and that needs to be part of it. I think as well, the work environment has changed as well. Employees, want to feel part of a company that has a direction and understand that they are part of something that's worthwhile as well. So I think that's really important. But I think you do need the leadership to drive that through. And I think where I've seen purpose be, really impactful and successful is where it's not just something dreamt up in an ivory tower. You have leadership who are committed to driving this through the way the organization behaves, making sure employees understand this, and making sure the way we deliver our products, services, and the way employees go about their data activities is in line with that purpose.
Right.
So I think to answer your question, I don't think it comes from one or the other. I think you need all three. You need the customer desire, I think you need the employees' desire, and I think you need the management will to make it happen.
So Gyro is a marketing agency, and we're seeing a lot of briefs from clients where they see the need to build a brand that's attractive to potential employees because they see the barrier to growth as not being able to attract the right talent. Yeah. So it is coming from leadership, but it's a recognition that employees join a brand that they want to associate themselves with, and they want to feel there's a reason for them to get up in the morning, which is the social purpose. They're doing something beneficial, not just to make money for people, but to actually do something good in the world.
When you have a client who you find comes to you and says, oh, I want to work on purpose, or I want to strengthen our purpose, or make sure that our communications programs really underline our purpose. How do you challenge them around being authentic and true and not just thinking of this as a campaign?
So I guess we call it an inside out brand development process. So we are quite challenging in the types of questions we ask them, what type of company they want to be, what that means in the products and services they create, their behaviours, how they do business, because you have to be authentic, because people know that about brand washing in B2B as well as B2C, so you have to be true. So if you think in B2B, a lot of the touch points with the brand are with sales. In that face-to-face channel, it needs to be live and breathed to your point, actually, that it needs to be employees as well as leaders, as well as customers. So it's making sure they can deliver those things in all those areas. Otherwise, it is a campaign, and you'd probably be better off spending your money somewhere else, because if
in
it
a targeted
backfired,
way, right?
And we all know the stories of where it's backfired in a lot of B2C brands. So you have to be authentic and walk the walk.
I mean, your business relies so much on data. Callsign, kind of probably gets up in the morning and lives and breathes data. Talk about how that translates back to the purpose and choices that you have to make.
I think, thank you, Lou. I mean, as you say, we are all about data, it's identity, so it's gathering information. And if we start off by saying it's got to be simple and secure when it comes to identity, we have to make sure that we don't take more data than we need to verify an identity. We secure it. We in no way would exploit it or sell it, no matter how much temptation was on the business model, because fundamentally we'd be out of business. And I think to the points that you've all made, it helps us with our employees that we bring on board and the decisions they make. Right. They know the type of company they've been brought on with, that they've joined, that they've made a decision to do. As they are tested with decisions, it helps guide them as a sort of North Star. And so it governs data, it governs decision making, and we have to live and breathe by that purpose the whole way through.
I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that it actually enables you to empower employees to make the right decisions, because to our earlier point, that's the kind of place where people want to work, right? Where they feel empowered, where they feel like they make a difference. And I guess that's, the test of authenticity is whether the employees believe it and act on it in a daily way.
We have a view that employee NPS or employee engagement is the bellwether for the brand, because if your employees are engaged with your brand, it means they understand the brand and they're living and breathing it, and that it's almost a precursor to other problems later on if they don't get it.
Yeah. And I think the key word both inside and outside your organization is the experience as well. So does that purpose translate into the experience of not only your customers, but also your employees? And so, you should be thinking about that, how your purpose and the way you behave manifests itself in experience. Because I think more and more, whether you're big or small, that your brand and you exist, your existence is really the sum of the experiences that your customers or your employees kind of enjoy or endure, either way. And so I guess, when you're thinking about your purpose, it's like anything, that we've done in marketing, whether it's value propositions or North Stars or missions and visions, it has to be authentic. And to get that authenticity, you have to listen to what your customers are saying, what your employees are saying, and using that to shape and define what you're doing. So it doesn't matter anyone, who, whatever you do, if you're doing it around a boardroom table or in any kind of workshop, and it's a small group of people and you expect the job's done, you stuck on your website.
Yeah.
I sort of slipped into a phrase that I was joking about earlier, which is you put it on your headed notepaper. And I thought, whenever we had a headed notepaper? I haven't seen headed notepaper like in 15 years. Anyway, but you know what I mean? It's
Adobe, I still print out PDFs.
And thank you for that. But again, it's got to be authentic and believable, and that's got to be what the employees are saying. And then to see it through, a purpose needs to be. You need the management will then to make sure the employees, as we're saying, live and breathe it as well,
and that the proof points feel credible and not just kind of done for sort of headlines or good PR. I have a question for you, which is there's a lot of academic analysis, and places like McKinsey have actually correlated and proved analytically that purpose-led brands actually outperform in terms of growth and profitability over time. Have you seen in your work specific examples where the purpose actually inspired innovation or specific growth ideas that turned into commercial value?
I think, we certainly, I won't name the names because they'd kill me, but I was in a meeting on Monday with a large international bank, and the discussion was all around, well, you have identity data, how do we know that you would never sell that? The example, unfortunately, again, not to cast aspersions, but there's a company that changed their statement from do no evil and beyond that and started changing their business model. And we were put under a lot of pressure to say, well, why won't that be you? Why won't you suddenly move in there? Because we don't want to work with you if that would be the case. And we had to go to quite a lot of length to spell out why our business model was actually more successful by doing what we do and by having this purpose. So yes, we see customers demanding it, and actually allows us to make a difference. And we talk about it being not just the capability of the software, but how it's applied. And we lead a lot with the applicability of what we do in the decision making that we do as a differentiator.
Yeah, and I think you were mentioning earlier, once you define that purpose, it needs to be a living, breathing thing that you keep referring back to. Is what we're doing in line with whatever our brand values, our purpose? Always checking back, and that requires a lot of discipline. So it's not something you stick in a drawer and forget about it. And did we say that? Which also, I guess using agencies to help you, like Gyro and others, I always think you've got to have something that's a stretch but believable and achievable. Don't set something like, these bold statements. They're great to be bold, and we all want to be bold. But, will we ever be able to adhere to that for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
I like to always say stretching but true, right?
Yeah.
Stretching but true.
Yeah. And it's important for employees coming back to, they go, that's just not credible. We're never going to be that company.
So we when we workshop brands with clients, you'll come up with 3 or 4 different areas.
Positionings,
that are purpose driven, and when you basically work through what does that mean in terms of your products and services, how will you behave, and it, to your point, it very quickly you knock out what you can't deliver, but then you hold on to areas where you can drive NPD, new products and services that feel achievable and relatable. So it does drive innovation. I think it can flip the other way, because you can have new products and services, and off the back of it you develop a purpose driven brand to get there.
I think you can also test new product ideas against the threshold of, does this actually support the purpose, the positioning, or does it just feel like a left field random thing that somebody wanted to do, or a hobby? I think the other thing I've seen in boardrooms is that the purpose, to the degree that it's really, really clear and embedded and internalized, it can help you make decisions in a crisis.
Yes.
Right. So when things are really going badly, the degree to which you can make decisions based on your purpose, I think actually gives you a compass, and that in and of itself can be powerful and credible with customers, I think, down the line.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The other thing that I wanted to explore with you guys is the question about when you see brands that are treating this stuff like a campaign, or like a strap line, or like a sort of flavor of this year's marketing budget. How do you challenge that? And have you had specific instances where you've had to be brave yourself and go to the CEO or the board or whoever and say, this just doesn't work relative to this?
Well, I think most instances, most of the projects that we work on, I don't think we ever get into that situation. So our executive leadership are very involved in, a lot of the I think the danger is where you aren't connecting this to the decision making in the organisation, and the danger is some group off here does something a bit rogue, and a lot of the things that it's not about brand control. That's not the way you should manage your brand. But it is about having a framework and, again, a clear understanding, clarity of what defines who you are and what you stand for. And, that's why that's really important to get that, again, it sounds like a horrible word, but sort of governance in place, so that doesn't happen. But, we don't have, I haven't worked in businesses with, brand police or anything like that, has to go through one person. But it's understood, and we work, we've worked hard with employees to help that understanding. So I personally haven't been involved in that. I think typically we on campaigns, we want to be bold and kind of disruptive and push these both out. I'm lucky to have worked in some disruptive brands where that's kind of part of your your DNA. So and so you're not trying to be conservative and and kind of deeply kind of safe. So most tech brands try to want to do something different. So I've worked in that space, but there's always a taste element to what you do as well. Yeah. And I think I'm lucky to have worked in businesses where we have that framework in place, and that's all part of building a purpose-driven culture. It's not just coming up with the idea and saying it's done. Is how do we make sure that we keep people on those rails and reinforce? And so we never need.
It's like any communications idea. I think there's reinforcing.
Yeah, I think campaigns tend to have communications and business targets, which are shorter term, whereas your purpose would be measured, whether you're delivering on your purpose would be measured longer term. So therefore, if the objectives for the purpose are sales driven and only sales driven, then I think you would push back in that space. And I would say in our business, I think employees should feel equally, who work for Gyro, should be equally challenging back that if people aren't, if top down are making decisions not against, that aren't in line with the purpose, then you should be, it's a living and breathing thing that everyone should be prepared to challenge.
I think as a client of great agencies over my career, the best agencies challenge me, right? And actually, challenge me around the thinking, but also challenge me around, would this be aligned with what you've said is the bigger idea?
I was going to add,
I know you want to jump in.
Yeah, the sort of short versus long-term hitter chord, actually still had forgotten, but I remember we had a new CEO and he said, okay, we're going to be customer-led. And I said, customer-led, it's all going to be customer-led. Fantastic, it's a great thing. Yeah. So what's that going to feel like as a customer, this change in strategy? How's it going to, how's it going to magnify itself? He said, good question. I hadn't really thought of that.
Maybe we should ask some customers.
No, worse. I guess, we're going to get more money out of them. I was like, okay. And then sort of having more of a conversation to say, well, that's not about being customer-led. That's a commercially led strategy, and that's okay.
Fine,
if that's what it is, but we can't wrap it in a customer-led, customer experience campaign because, to your words, John, it's inauthentic, and exactly what you were saying, it's a short-term versus long-term approach. But yeah, it was quite a horrific conversation. It was over lunch as well, and sort of threw me for a little while.
Yeah. And that's a shame, because what I would say is where that's been successful is it's come from the CEO, and he's driven, a lot of the transformations that go on. He or she, yes, thank you. A lot of the transformations of business have come from, whether it's been anything from adoption of technology to the, and to the way in which your workforce, is working, remote working, whatever it is. It really comes from the top down. What I've seen, the executive team have to be committed to it. So if they're making these sorts of statements, you're never gonna be a customer-led business.
Absolutely.
If the objective is to get them to buy more money. The objective is to make them happy, you realize value from what you're delivering, and as a result, they're going to buy more. Right?
And advocate. And I really have to emphasise this was not Callsign. This was brilliant.
No, we understood that.
Yeah. And I think advocacy is a word you just used, which is a really powerful. Yeah. That's different than I buy your stuff. Yeah. Advocacy is truly. I would get out and put myself on the line, and that I think that's a great test of
absolutely
of
critical. Yeah.
My teenage son asked me what good I'd done in the world through work, and I think that's quite a good. That is quite a good.
Very loaded.
I had to think quite. What you say. I did find something to say, but I think if you ask yourself that, then you're living a purpose that has value to society, and that for me is what a purpose should be for a brand.
Yes, good. Good. Where have you seen the situation where the purpose has been, incredibly researched, and it's grounded in customer input, and it comes from the top, and it has all the sort of conditions for success, but then just doesn't have impact? Have you ever seen that in a client or any place where you've worked?
I think the gap is where there's no commercial viability between what customers would want your purpose to be and employees would want your purpose to be. If you can't make that a good and successful
link
business, then it will fail, because it just simply isn't sustainable from the norms of a perspective. And I think there are some within the airline, and again, it's sort of B2C, where they're sort of going out saying, oh, we're this, I remember sitting with British Airways and someone coming up to me, because I used to fly a lot, saying, trying something new. I said, oh, what's that? I said, we're going to put customers first. I said, oh, how's that working out? And they said, surprisingly well. I was like, is this a new initiative? Oh, yes, I've been working for years. And you're like, wow, I didn't realise you weren't putting me first. Okay. So I think it's where you perhaps misjudge or you overestimate the affinity that people have with your brand or your relevance
And I
your
think
customers.
sometimes you see bank, the space that I've spent my career in, bank advertising or insurance companies
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they're sort of out there with a message that, yes, they do play a role in society around providing safety and security and, financial wealth over time, wellness. But sometimes they come out with something that sounds like God or sounds like, significantly beyond what anybody would think their bank would say. And it kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
I think one of the areas in banking actually is where, for small businesses, there's obviously a lot of sensitivity around whether the business is a viable business for the bank to invest in, and that behaviour versus perhaps the purpose of the bank, which is to help businesses grow. And I think often the negative stories you hear about where banks have stopped providing credit, but their positioning is around helping drive growth. And I get there's commercial decisions driving some of those decisions, but I think that's probably an example where they don't marry up.
Providing access is something that they do, yes, of course, but I don't know that providing access to small businesses to thrive would necessarily be the first thing that anybody would say about banks, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I think, an example of a claim that doesn't feel authentic to people hearing it.
They probably have helped a lot, but it's the ones they haven't.
Yeah, exactly. Is that really the lead idea that you would have?
And I think typically when you're thinking about purpose in a business, it is more, as we talked about, more longer term measures. And where it falls down is where you over index on the short term KPIs. So where it doesn't work really, where it sort of comes unstuck is the short term pressures to deliver to the street, or to investors. And I always give the, I think we were talking earlier, the analogy of like going into Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, asking investment and saying, I'm going to give 5% of my, profits to whatever cause, which may be linked to the business that they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you always get that reaction from investors going, oh no, hang on. So I'm going to give you your money, you my money, and then you're going to give 5% of that away to some, no, I don't get that. We're trying to make money here. And that's a great example of, typically where businesses fall foul is they have to deliver probably quite stretched expectations, deliver short-term revenue, and sometimes that's at the expense of maybe more of the purpose-driven measures, which is maybe around more customer engagement, satisfaction, because you're sort of pushing customers to buy things because you're customer-led, and that's all about trying to get them to buy more stuff.
But I think
because you got to deliver on your short-term revenue goals.
It's interesting though, because if you can convince your investor that your purpose and the community impact you're trying to have with that 5% may actually make you a bigger, better business. Yeah. So if the investors buy that, then you may have landed on exactly the right square.
Yeah. There's also a lot of evidence around. We were talking about this, but not just millennials actually, but the research I've read is around millennials about how they make business decisions based on value, purpose, and actually what's in it for them as well as the business. But going back to the value of the brand to attract talent, I think people are making business decisions differently, and I think that sort of purpose and value that you offer society is forming part of the decision making.
I agree. I think there are examples of brands out there that are causing share shift within their category because people really are much more engaged consumers. And they really are paying more attention. I think social media helps in that regard.
Absolutely.
So you actually can find out more about what Coca-Cola is doing. And so I think that trend will develop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I heard someone say, just to get a sense for your brand, go into Google and type your brand name and then the word sucks and see what comes back.
That's brave.
Or whatever your favorite thing is.
I would say that's brave.
Yeah. Because that is a good measure of what sentiment is out there, and that's one of the positive things, right? Is you can get a much more clearer sense of what consumers think of your brand much easier through social media, forums, communities, whatever. All brands have got some way in which they're connecting with their customers digitally. So it should be seen as an opportunity, and be monitoring that and using that to make sure that you are on track and not just sort of discounting it and thinking you've done the job because you've agreed it internally in a workshop or something. So I think it should be viewed positively. It's not a thing to dread. Hopefully, most brands have got customers who are out there being advocates and fans, and
Yeah.
There are brands
Yeah.
like that. We were talking about someone, a Cisco user has a Cisco tattoo on their arm. Who would have thought?
Right, exactly.
Anyway.
Free tattoos for anyone after work if they'd like to put the company's brand on their arm. The thing that I am curious about, because many of you have worked in and around technology companies, and we've had the B2B discussion, is that do you think technology companies have become so powerful today that they feel benign enough to be saying positive impact on the world that they're in? Or do you think technology is now becoming kind of dark and big and powerful? And just your perception.
Technology is a broad church, right?
Mm-hmm, it is.
There are probably millions of technology companies. I think we all think about the bigger, the tech, behemoths of the world, who maybe, when you talk to some of the people within these businesses, and we've mentioned some of them, there's kind of like they're like, teenagers that've got a lot of power and they're not realizing the impact of what they're doing. They're not fundamentally evil people trying to, do evil things. It's just they don't understand the power of, because it's all new, right? So we're all learning the power of technology. So I don't think technology per se or technology companies are dark arts or but there's an opportunity for everyone to punch far above their weight. Whether you're a smaller business like Sarah's or a larger business like the ones I've worked in, or you worked in financial services, right? To the consumer, I mean, I know this when I want to buy something. I just want to buy something and get it delivered quickly. So invariably, I'll probably go to Amazon first. If it's not there, I'll search on Google. I don't care who the company is. I don't, I just want that product or service. So, smaller businesses can, compete in that space, and compete with the giants, because technology allows them to scale out and have much more reach and much more impact.
So the thesis of it creates a level playing field.
To some extent, depends on the, So I end up buying things from companies. I don't know who they. It could be one guy in a garage, packing up things and sending them to me. As long as I'm that person who filters by Amazon Prime. So as long as I get,
what's your purpose again?
I don't care what it is, as long as you get it to me within 24 hours. But I guess my point is, then it is about the experience and to some extent, how that company behaves and the way you interact with them.
Right.
And if I don't get a great experience, I don't care, I won't use you again. And so that is, again, comes back to the way the company wants to behave. And, and I do choose brands where I feel they have a purpose, more and more, are thinking about the impact that they have on society or on the world. And, it's changing in me. My kids call me a boomer. I'm not quite a boomer, but
okay, boomer.
Boomer, everything's boomer. Are you boomer? But even in from my generation, not just millennials, I think we're all making that shift.
Yeah,
I think as long as, and as you said, there's big and small companies. I think as long as companies with power don't abuse that power and they behave ethically, it's fine. And I think it's great to have smaller companies that are using technology to challenge and probably challenge the ways that the status quo has been, because I think it provides greater transparency and it provides greater empowerment, actually. So I think it's positive if it's used.
Agreed. And in the world of financial services, the whole open banking thing is happening, and you will, in your business, you'll go probably from meetings with great big banks to little tiny startups that are all, because of technology, now having a significantly more level playing field. So it's an interesting space to watch.
It is, and I think it's a great enabler. I mean, technology enables. And it enables good. It enables evil. It just enables the sort of world to our door. It's brought things more convenient, to John's point. I think the challenge with technology is it's still quite young, so it's not necessarily had to go through the cycles that a bank...
The maturity,
The negative, the disaster, that perhaps then brings a greater sort of grounding behind there. And I think we expect a lot from technology leaders who've not had to go through some of those challenging times. And so when they hit... They're not treating it in the same way that...
There's never been a technology crisis like we had a financial crisis. And I think those experiences to executives who've been in them are maturing. And also, clearly people don't always learn every lesson, but But there is a sense, I think, in many of the big financial institutions I'm with, of we're not be doing that again,
Yes.
right?
And it does shape decisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why purpose is good, because it does provide you with those principles
Yeah,
by
exactly.
which you do business.
It's kind of like guardrails as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
exactly.
Good. This has been great, you guys. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I think we've covered a lot of different bases. And hopefully we've provided some
Yes.
food for thought. Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.